Hey guys, this week we are going to be dividing fractions. So instead of multiplying fractions, we're going to be dividing. And I know that it sounds really difficult, but honestly, there's a good little trick that you can use that will help you divide fractions very, very easily. So let's go ahead and look at number 1. And on number 1, we have 1/4 divided by 1/2. And so this method is called the leave it, change it, flip it method. And what it does, it divides this problem into, or the equation into 3 different groups. The first group is leave it. The next group would be change it. And then the last group would be flip it. And what we do here, we take each section and put them into their own little category, right? So the first one would be leave it. We have the 1/4 there, so we leave that the same. And then we have the division sign in the change it section, and then 1/2 in the flip it section. So as you can guess, the first section we leave it, right? We leave it the same as 1/4, right? We do not mess with that one. We leave it exactly the same. We change our sign from division to multiplication, okay? And then we use the last section as flip it. We use that to do, instead of 1/2, we would flip it and do 2/1. So now, with this method, we're going to use multiplication to solve this division equation. And you may hear this said instead of the leave it, change it, flip it method. You'll probably hear me or your teacher talk in class. They would say multiply it by the reciprocal. And so the reciprocal is just this section right here. Whenever you change that fraction and you flip it, that's called the reciprocal, okay? And so it's almost like you're saying multiply 1/4 by the opposite of 1/2, which would be 2/1, right? It's not technically the opposite, but that's kind of how we think of it. Sometimes the reciprocal would be like it would flip the fraction over. And so instead of doing 1/4 divided by 1/2, you would do 1/4 times 2/1, which is a whole number 2, right? But now that we know how to multiply fractions from last week, we know how to solve this problem, right? We have 1/4 times 2/1, or 2 as a whole number, right? And so whenever we do this, we multiply across the top. We have 1 times 2, that is 2. And then we have 4 times 1 is 4. So we end up with 2/4, which can also be simplified to 1/2. We need to be getting more familiar with simplifying our fractions. So try not to leave it as not simplified. Try to go ahead and simplify it, right? And when we look at this, we have 2/4. We know that 2/4 is the same as 1/2 because 2 is half of 4, the same way that 1 is half of 2. So go ahead and simplify those. And then you have 5 more of those problems, okay? So no problem. You guys can finish those, and then you have 3 word problems, and I can go ahead and read those to you. That way you know what to expect. But it says Mr. Johnson wants to share 3/4 pound of dog food equally among his 2 dogs. And so how much dog food will each dog get? And so if you look at it, he has 3/4 pounds of dog food, so he would have 3/4 pounds of dog food divided by 2 dogs. So you guys can go ahead and solve that problem. You can do the you can do the leave it, change it, flip it method like we did in the top problem. You can look back at that one and figure it out. But remember that if we have a whole number 2 here, the way to show that as a fraction would be 2/1, right? So we would have that as 2/1 instead of just 2, right? And so then you would you would leave 3/4 the same. You change the sign from division to multiplication, and then you flip the fraction like this. So instead of 2/1, you would have 1/2, or 1/2. And so then you would multiply across. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 2 is 8. There's your final answer. And we can't simplify that because 3 and 8 really can't be divided by the same number, right? So you guys go ahead and finish those last 2 word problems, and that's it for the homework this week, guys. You just have, if you've watched this video and I've already worked 2 of them out for you, you should only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 problems. So you guys can do this. Remember, give it your best all the time. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask your teacher. We really want to help you guys, so please ask us for help if you have a question about any of this. And remember, it's due Friday, March the 1st. And since this lesson is kind of dealing with flipping things and doing the opposite, right, when you're solving a division problem with a multiplication problem, since we're kind of doing the opposite here, we're actually going to have a villain for the dojo point this week. So the villain for the week is Dr. Octopus, or Dr. Octavius, or Doc Ock. So you can write Doc Ock on the sheet of paper with your name on it, and you guys can get a dojo point for watching this video. You guys are awesome, and keep giving your best and keep trying really, really hard on this. All right, y'all have a great week.